This is Doctor Fanboi. I'm Matt Vadney. Short takes, long boxes. If you've watched before, you know that we are listening to the theme song to Marvel's Runaways on Hulu, composed by Siddhartha Klosa. If you haven't been watching, you might wonder, what is Runaways? Runaways is a comic published in 2003 and 2004, written by Brian K. Vaughan, drawn by Adrian Alphona, that uses Marvel's favorite potentially false binary, that of the hero and the villain, to explore society's favorite false binary, that of adulthood and adolescence. It's also a story that asks, what would you do if your parents were evil? What would you do if they did it for you? The three issues that we're going to be talking about today continue building stakes for that potential parent punching, all the while following the formula of the second issue. Issue 2 ends with the full-page reveal of the dinosaur, which is set up as being a bad guy. But of course, the real formula that's being set up is that these issues are going to end or come close to ending with the reveal of the thing that makes our individual heroes special. Power sets are metaphors for personality, almost always. So what on earth does Gert's dinosaur symbolize? It's hard to say. It seems to me that Gert's newfangled politics, her feminism, her commitment to social justice, all of which is completely underplayed and I think much to its detriment on Hulu's television show, here could be juxtaposed with something really old and powerful in terms of the dinosaur. It also seems to me that it makes her just genuinely hard to know what to do with, and I think that's part of the strength of the comic in that it allows Gert to have really rough edges and to have a body type that we don't see in comics very often. Gert is without question my favorite character in this version, and my least favorite character on the Hulu show. The dinosaur fight itself is fairly non-exciting in that Gert has a mental connection to the dinosaur and it stops when she tells it to. It does reveal that the team at this point is super scattered and not a team at all. Chase ignores everybody's instructions, tries to hit the dinosaur with the stick. That's terrible. Alex has plans that are terrible. Everything is terrible. Once Gert gets the dinosaur under control, however, a holograph from her parents tells her that they are time travelers. The dinosaur is a direct legacy, a gift from the parents coming from their special kind of evil. It's also worth revisiting our costumed villains, the Pride, thinking about the Pride as a primer for the corners of the Marvel Universe, including magic users and mutants and the people that use technology but don't actually have power like Iron Man. This helps set up a scaffolding for when we receive our individual powers one at a time in the issues that we're talking about here. We know where to put them. There's more bonding, more talking about what to do. They go to Caroline's house. It's still the same night. It's now at this point, well, it's actually the next morning. It's like 1:30. And Caroline has a similar sort of awakening as she realizes that the bracelet that she's been wearing on her wrist does not, in fact, signal to health providers a medical condition, but it keeps her alien form from manifesting. When the bracelet is removed, she glows. Both Carolina and Gert react in teenage ways to their powers, treating them like secrets from their parents rather than the gifts they are. Carolina, in particular, is very upset about not being told who she actually was, or at least being forced to put on a literal mask in the form of this bracelet, until, of course, she realizes that not only does she glow, she can fly. Thinking about Carolina's power set and the fact that the bracelet that her parents gave her kept her from her true form, and her true form involved being unbounded by the laws of physics and being able to fly through the air, sparkling in a rainbow color, we might think about this as potential queer coding. The extent to which it is, or the extent to which we might read into that first panel I've talked about a couple of times from the first issue aside, Now, this reveal could easily have come at the end of the issue the same way that Gert's dinosaur did. However, the issue doesn't stop there. We get a phone call from the police to Alex Wilder's father that lets them know of the phone call that we saw to begin with. So the plot is thickening, and now the parents are very aware of what is going on. The traditional superhero book usually includes one major battle and a setup for the next week's issue that is usually going to be another battle. Superhero books are about punching things. So it's interesting that Vaughan and Alphona here again and again choose to end either by thickening the plot or by teasing that we're going to be able to understand something better about our 6 characters if we read the next issue. We get the dinosaur, but we don't get the explanation. We get flight, but we don't get the explanation. That's a very different way of using the decompressed structure. And again, the month between each comic. Issue 4 opens with Alex's dad holding a knife behind his back. While he clarifies that this is just for show when he talks to his wife, their discussion and the weirdness of Alex having a male mannequin head in his room is again deft characterization on Vaughn and Alphana's part that's not just extended to our 6 erstwhile protagonists, but also their parents. It's now that Carolina has realized that she is not the daughter of famous Hollywood actors, but is in fact a space alien. She realizes that they have been lied to, and her parents are probably supervillains. Everybody should be united, but Chase is still skeptical. While the others think about what they've done to poor Molly, who's not with them, and the ways in which they have imitated their parents by shielding her and protecting her, which is code for lying in the grown-up world, Chase has an excuse to keep lying a little bit. His house is on the way. He might be able to find some proof there of what their parents did. He also might be able to find neat gadgets. Everyone else gets a superpower. Why doesn't Chase? Sure enough, when they get there and go to his parents' Tony Stark-like workshop that's much bigger on the inside than it is on the outside, perhaps that's a TARDIS reference. Of course it's a TARDIS reference. He starts playing with gadgets. He plays with X-ray goggles. Whether or not Brian K. Vaughan and Adrian Alphana are winking at the ridiculous tradition in teen books to reveal the female members of the cast in their underclothes or are employing it themselves, we get that scene. It's probably not science that's responsible for why the X-ray goggles can see through one layer of clothing but not all of it. That might have something to do with the vestigial comic codes. Unfortunately, this tender scene of spying on people's undergarments is interrupted by our evil, evil parents, and our first showdown ensues. This, like all first showdowns in an arc, gets our heroes' butts a little kicked. Our parents have a lot more powers. It also does a couple of things. Nico's mom stabs her with what is called the Staff of One. All of this gets us to forget about the conundrum that is Molly until we get a phone call while they're back in the van and we realize that the parents are potentially willing to do horrible, horrible things to Molly. This, of course, is the Runaways' biggest fear, that the thing that they were willing to do in the basement, they'd be willing to do to them. After all, if you can kill a homeless runaway, you can kill anybody. Given the way that issue 4 ended, it's no surprise that issue 5 is going to include the biggest fight between our parents and our children. It's also going to include our team acting like a team. They have something called Phase 1, Phase 2, Phase 3. Before we get that, however, we've got parents looming over Molly's body talking about parenting. This has a lot to do with what I think makes this series special. So why on the eve of the showdown with their parents would they have a multi-step plan that Alex has come up with? Do Nico and Alex kiss? We have existing templates for the kinds of attraction and awkwardness that Nico and Alex are experiencing. I believe that Vaughn and Alphana are using the most easily recognizable sense of deepening feelings to give us the sense that all of these characters' feelings are deepening for each other. When the fight actually happens, we see Carolina concerned about Chase and in fact stick up to her mom about him. We see Nico demonstrating care for a lot of different folks. The point is that these are no longer just characters who are united by a shared enemy. They're, on their way to being friends. And of course, as we all know in Marvel, friends is the first step towards team. Issue 2 explored Gert's dinosaur powers. Issue 3 introduced us to Carolina's potentially queer-coded flight. Issue 4 gave us Chase in his goggles and his gloves while giving the Staff of One to Nico. This issue explores Nico, and we see that the Staff of One is blood magic. When she bleeds, the staff comes out. We don't totally know the rules, but we see her instinctively being able to use freeze. This issue gives us both Carolina and Nico exploring their power sets in the context of their parents. We've got sort of the genetic intuition of Nico, but also we've got Carolina figuring out that her bracelet might be used to pack a heck of a punch when she hits her mom. We return to a staple of superhero comic storying, which is a full-page reveal of a character at the end of the issue. This is Molly, lit up like a mutant, and we see her preparing to potentially attack our Runaways. This is a couple of things. One, it sets up that Molly is going to be someone that they have to fight. It also is a payoff for all of the discussions about whether or not they were making a mistake to not include Molly in their plans. On the one hand, the reveal of Molly on the final page seems a bit like a MacGuffin, as we probably know that she won't stay mad at our teenage protagonists forever, and that whatever mistakes they make can probably be undone. However, it's worth remembering that in the Marvel Universe, being a mutant is really, really bad. We don't get our characters understand that she's a mutant until just before she shows up with glowing eyes, wanting to kick their butts and telling them to stay away from their mommy. This at least should get us to think about all of the metaphors in the Marvel Universe for difference and make us wonder whether or not our good guys are actually going to be that good if they're going to discriminate against Molly for being a mutant. In a lot of ways, only one or two things happen in each of these three issues. I'm not sure, as I've been reading one of them per month, how well this would have worked. In a trade paperback form or reading on Marvel Unlimited where you can binge, this stuff is gold. The pacing here works really well when you don't have to wait a month for the next issue. So we've had 5 chapters that have done a lot of things to set up the plot in terms of this particular conflict with their parents. We're going to expect payoff from that to some extent at the end of the first arc. However, final issues of a first arc are really complicated, and they have to do 2 things. They have to satisfy a plot, but they also have to keep a comic in existence so that Marvel can sell more comics. When we come back shortly, we will explore the final issue and see how it does that. That's going to be a fairly short conversation because it's just got to do those 2 things, and it's going to do them as efficiently and quickly as possible with as many people getting punched in the face as you can. However, we're then going to look at a couple of issues that attempt or at least look like they're going to be freestanding issues, but they're not. Vaughn and Alphana, and I think this is something that is also part of why the television show is so decompressed and we don't even run away until the end of the first season, understand that once these characters stop fighting their parents and start doing regular sorts of things, they become regular sorts of heroes, and a lot of the potency of the metaphor goes away. Thanks for watching Doctor Fanboi. I'm Matt Vadney. Stay safe. Be cool. Hey, you made it to the end and you're still watching. That means maybe you'd be willing to like or share this video, as well as ask a question about Runaways or about something you'd like to see me cover in future episodes. I will answer as quickly as I can. You should also check out me at Dr. Fanboi on Twitter, as well as look for me in a bunch of online venues about comics and pop culture and music. You also can check out my Facebook page and my Patreon. I said it before, but I mean it. Stay safe. Be cool. The last 10 minutes were brought to you by Productions.